The Bears are going to the Super Bowl. Okay, that might be a little hyperbolic, considering everything that's been going on. And I think that Bears fans should know at some point, and not to get too excited. And yet, at the other side of it, why not enjoy this moment? Why not take a second to enjoy the fact that the number one coaching candidate in the hiring cycle is coming to the Chicago Bears for as long. And listen, I guess I was against Braggs on this, where I'm like, I wanted Detroit to go a little bit further and do, go to the Super Bowl, get some experience, maybe even have some fun on Super Bowl Monday night, to sit there and kind of joke with him, like, hey, when you coming to Chicago, a whole bit was planned and all that stuff. So at the same time, listening to people over the weekend who were so convinced that he was going to the Raiders, so convinced. Oh, everybody. Oh, they're hiring this assistant GM. They're doing this. Tom Brady's going to convince him on a 10-minute conversation before the game. All of that out the window. Ben Johnson is the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. And Sammy, let's go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois, the sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. Thank you so much for joining us. As a matter of fact, hold on. I'm letting the NFL Network know that I'm recording right now. I'm already on a show. Sorry, guys. I'm already on a show right now. Maybe I'll come on a little bit later if we get the opportunity. I was in communication with the producers at the NFL Network, and I said, hey, listen, there's a kid out there. I think it was Jay. Forgive me. I don't have it up on my Twitter machine right now. I said, there's somebody at the Chicago Executive Airport tracking a flight from Pontiac, Michigan, that we think has Ben Johnson on it. And I don't know if you guys need to use this information. I'm going to have him record some stuff and we'll see what happens. But you know what? Turns out our sources were correct. I will not be on at the top of the hour with Stacey Dales. Unfortunately, I'm here with you. I wanted to sit here and connect with the Chicago Bears fans. I'm sure I'll get an opportunity to go on here in the near future. What time is it right now? I can't do 4:05 p.m. Hold on. I know I'm doing this live. I'm right in the middle of recording my show. So sorry. Hold on. 4:05 p.m. Oh, for sure. Actually, okay. So 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm doing news. My phone's blowing up. Normally it's my friends who are blowing up the phone being like, hey, Rank, I saw the news. Yes, I get alerts. So I'm going to be on it. I'm going to be on 7 o'clock on the NFL Network this evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. Let me make sure I get all those times right. Yeah, 1:05. Okay. So much to go over. I was starting to collect my thoughts. As a matter of fact, if you jumped onto my TikTok, which is back, by the way, or my YouTube, I uploaded a YouTube short talking about the Jalen Carter stuff, because I felt like, well, let me get all this stuff out because we're probably going to have to wait until Wednesday to get until we hear one way or the other. And so I don't want to sit here and victory lap anybody and be like, hey, we sort of told you so, because again, everybody who was the doom and gloom, like Tom Brady's going to be there. He's going to talk to him before the game. And you're like, yeah, Tom Brady, that's fine. Caleb Williams has played 2 games in front of Ben Johnson. He knows what he wants. By the way, I don't think I have to tell you. When I know that the Commanders are going to be enjoying this week, being like, you guys could have had Jaden Daniels. Ben Johnson had an opportunity to choose between Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, and he chose Caleb Williams. So I'm going to go with that. And forgive me, I got to put my voice on. I got to put my thing on mute. I got to put my thing on mute right now. My phone's going off, but it's a great day and it's a great moment. I'm going to walk through this the joy and adulation for anybody who is sitting here. I will say this. Remember this point in time. Remember this moment. Remember where you are, regardless of what happens within the next 3 to 5 years. This day, January 20th, 2025, will go down in history as a momentous occasion. Everybody will look back on this day and say, the only thing that happened on January 20th of 2025, Ben Johnson was hired as the head coach of the Chicago Bears. If I'm not mistaken, this was also the same day that Mike Ditka. Sammy, can you effort this? Can you look and see the date that Mike Ditka was hired with the Chicago Bears? And so remember this, and remember, this is all what we wanted. I want this to be the type of situation. I remember years ago watching the Fiesta Bowl when Boise State with Jared Zabransky, Ian Thomas, those guys. Ian Thomas? Was that it? Ian Thomas? That was him, right? That was the guy who scored the touchdown, right? Or the 2-point conversion. I will say this. Like, I remember before they went for 2, being like, I hope they go for 2. And regardless of whether it works or not, in that moment, you're like, I hope they go for 2. Similarly, I want the majority of Bears fans to remember this point in time being like, we all, for by and large, we all wanted or want Ben Johnson to be the coach of the Chicago Bears. Now, I have been on the record. By the way, same day, Mike Ditka was also hired on January 20th. Okay. I was on record earlier this year saying that Mike Vrabel was my first choice, and I wanted to bring in somebody like, Brian Daboll, and that whole thing fell apart over a course of days because obviously Mike Vrabel got hired by the New England Patriots. Brian Daboll stayed as head coach of the New York Giants, so that dream went away. And I said on this show, and I scared Greg Braggs a little bit, where I'm like, listen, I really want. I've now decided that I want Ben Johnson. And the reasons that I was hesitant about Ben Johnson is some of the reasons that I see online with people. And you know what? Your fears are absolutely warranted. Every time there is a coordinator who is hired, who is elevated, there comes a risk in that this guy did not want, or this guy's never been a head coach. So we really don't know what he's going to be like as a head coach. There is no denying that Ben Johnson is one of the better offensive coordinators that we've seen over the last decade, maybe 2. He has been phenomenal. And it's amazing to me that everybody is pointing to the Saturday night game with Ben Johnson being like, oh, who would want him now? Who would want him now? They still had Jared Goff, okay? They still scored 31 points with a concussed Jared Goff after the Commanders did him dirty with a play that was not should not have been legal, would not have been legal with a lot. The only quarterbacks you could do that to are Jared Goff and Caleb Williams. Every other quarterback is drawing the 15-yard penalty, and depending on who it was, you're being kicked out of the game. Although you'll probably do that to Lamar Jackson too. So there was nothing about Saturday night that changed my opinion on Ben Johnson. But I do understand anybody who has reservations about Ben Johnson because he's never been a head coach. I've said that. I brought that point up on this show on numerous occasions, which is why I had initially favored Mike Vrabel. And again, if this comes back to haunt me and Mike Vrabel flames out in New England and Ben Johnson becomes a Hall of Fame coach, I'm like, yeah, you guys are right. I will have no problem saying I never dismiss it. I just said I understand that, hey, like nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. A cloned 40-year-old Jimmy Johnson would not be guaranteed with the Chicago Bears. Bill Belichick in 2015 would not be guaranteed with the Chicago Bears. So there's always going to be some inherent risk. But still, so I understand where the skeptics are coming from. And I understand that. But here's the thing that I started talking about over the last couple of weeks. And this is after Mike Vrabel went on and why I was so dismissive of the Mike McCarthy talk. Would not even listen to that for a moment. I was not a part of that. Greg Braggs was the guy, not me. And I even said this, like a lot of you got way too comfortable and defeated talking about how, well, I mean, if it is Mike McCarthy, here's why it won't be as bad as you think. It will be. And whoever hires Mike McCarthy is going to deal with that. Here's the one thing that is going in Ben Johnson's favor, though. When you look at it, and I understand the risk, he's not a guaranteed product. Understand, you got me. Okay. However, we know what we're getting with somebody like Mike McCarthy is that you'll probably win 10 to 12 games for a couple of years. Then you'll have a down year like you had this season, but consistently you will be a playoff contender. You'll get to the playoffs. Do you have a realistic chance of making it? I know a lot of people will compare it to the situation with Mike Tomlin. In fairness to Mike Tomlin, he hasn't had a quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger retired. And even the last couple of years of Ben Roethlisberger were not great. So Pittsburgh doesn't have a realistic chance of winning with Mike Tomlin because their quarterback situation sucks. Hopefully that's not going to be the case with the Chicago Bears. But Mike McCarthy, who has had Aaron Rodgers and Dak, and say what you will about Dak Prescott, I still think he's a good quarterback. That's a 10 to 12 win team that might win a playoff game. And then I don't know. I don't know what happens. Very Packers-like in that way, and which is fitting because he coached the Packers. So I would rather take the chance that Ben Johnson is going to be the next Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell, as opposed to Matt Nagy, and even Cliff Kingsbury in a way. Cliff Kingsbury, of course, being a head coach at Texas Tech, but still, nobody is guaranteed. A lot of people thought Cliff Kingsbury was going to be a slam dunk head coach in the NFL. It did not work out that way. I was really impressed with Matt Nagy when he came in. And the difference between the two is that Matt Nagy called plays for 6 games. And this has been pointed out. Matt Nagy called plays for 6 games. Ben Johnson has been doing it for years with Jared Goff. So for me, I feel like it's worth the risk. He has proven himself to be a pretty good play caller. And what the Bears have done now is that they've shown that their number one priority is going to be developing their quarterback and making sure that Caleb Williams is at a spot where he can take it to the next level and be that guy that we all think that he's going to be. The conversation could be very different over the next couple of years. And we know what the conversation is right now because everybody is pointing out, hey, did you could have had Jaden Daniels. And it's like, yeah, but what do you realistically think Jaden Daniels would have done with the Chicago Bears this season? Would he have thrown for 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns? Well, that's funny. That's what Caleb Williams, he threw less than 10 interceptions. I believe it was 8. Coaching matters. Ask Carl Williams, the father of Caleb Williams. Ask Carl Williams if coaching matters. And it's not to say that Jaden's only good because of, the situation in Washington. He's a good player. He would have been like Drake May and Bo Nix and those guys. I don't think that he would have been at the level he's at right now were it not for the coaching. Cliff Kingsbury has proven to be very good. He's actually, at least for this season, shook the label of the Cliff, where his quarterback finished strong, and you start to wonder, like, well, when did the Call of Duty games come out? Was that the real thing that was holding Cliff Kingsbury back? But I think now Chicago has got their guy. There's no more excuse. Well, there'll still be the offensive line excuse, but there'll be no excuses. Watch the game on Saturday night, and when you've watched the Lions this year, the creativity. We saw the play the other night. It's a lot of rugby stuff, as somebody described it, not me. It's a rugby play. There are so many things going on that it just shows the creativity when you have the opportunity to put players in position to succeed. That was the one thing that you noticed. You noticed this with Washington. You noticed this with the Lions, is that players always seem to be wide open. Like, how many times during a game with the Bears where you're watching a game where you're like, God, this guy's wide open. This guy knows exactly what he's doing. Like, you know what? Like, they're scheming him up. You can't miss. Somebody is wide up. I remember one play against Jacksonville Cole Kmet's second touchdown. It's like, that's the first time that I've seen the Bears run a play that NFL teams run and make it look successful. We can expect to see a lot more than that. And then also too, we have to wonder about this. How much, like, Lions done now? That to me is a legitimate question. Like, what is going to become of the Detroit Lions? Now, there is a chance that Aaron Glenn leaves as well. I mean, if he wants to come be defensive coordinator for the Bears, he's welcome. But I'm sure that he has his designs to be a head coach in the NFL. I expect him actually. Aaron Glenn, I expect to be the head coach of the New York Jets. By the way, I was just sitting there. I don't want to do this yet. I don't want to go through all the. It was Chase Daniel. I knew Chase Daniel was one of them who put out their predictions of like, hey, here's where I think the coaches go. Ben Johnson, Raiders. Oh God, I am fighting the urge. Not victory lap. You know, who cares? He's with the Bears now. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what anybody else thought. But what happens to the Lions? I think the Lions could be like, listen, and it's so funny because so many people were adamant. Ben Johnson's not going to want to go and coach in the same division. That's unprecedented. Like North Turner did this years ago. Actually, it was hilarious because it was a Commanders fan who's like, guy's not leaving for a job in his own division. Like, North Turner did it, you idiot. Although they're probably not old enough, but still, it happened, and it's happened a lot. Bill Parcells went from the Jets to the Patriots, or versa versa. I forget what it was. Patriots to the Jets. Whatever. Coached in the same division. He went to Games. Trying to think. George Seifert. Now, he went. And George Seifert. Wait, were the Carolina Panthers ever in the NFC West? Were they part of the West? When they came in, they were, right? I think George Seifert did it too. Whatever. It doesn't matter. He's gone. He did it. He did it. He jumped divisions. And now you look at it and you're like, oh, Rank, please. I'm not even reading the comments right now. We'll get to some. Sammy, start pulling up some of these comments or doing whatever. Get them ready to go because I want everybody to be a part of this. They will look at it, and so many people were saying, why would Ben Johnson want to go and coach in the NFC North in that great division that had two 14-game winners? The Packers won 10 games, and the Bears were just garbage. And you're like, well, how good was the after the playoffs? How good was the NFC North? Nobody won a playoff game. As a matter of fact, the only team undefeated in 2025 right now in the NFC North, Chicago Bears. The only team. I don't know if one of these other teams won their last game of the season. I think the Lions did. I think the Lions had it. Yeah, they beat the Vikings. They're 1-1 though. Bears are the only team undefeated. How does this division look so far? I know Greg and I broke this down a couple of weeks ago. So Detroit's losing both coordinators. They still have Jared Goff. I think we're going to. Well, it'll be interesting to see what's up with Jared Goff. How good is Jared Goff? We're about to find out. Oh, I can't wait to find out. Can't wait for it. The Minnesota Vikings love Kevin O'Connell. Love what he's doing. Where's Brian Flores going to be next season? Who's going to be their starting quarterback? I love Sam Darnold. Everybody knows this. I will not besmirch Sam Darnold, but there is going to be a push to have J.J. McCarthy start. Because listen, he's in the small time of his window, and is Sam Darnold even returning to the Vikings? You could have Daniel Jones as the backup there in Minnesota, and then you have the Packers. The Packers are always going to be the Packers. Packers are going to do their thing. Packers are going to go out. The teams that I described earlier, 10, 12 wins, go out there, do their thing. Then what? Are you going? Is that a Super Bowl winning team? Is there anything about the only thing the Packers have? Is that they have a bunch of young guys that they're not paying. They love that. Oh, my God, they love that. Hey, look at us. Look at what we're doing. We're the youngest team in the league. You're like, oh, congratulations. Still waiting for our Ben Johnson research has not come through yet, guys. What are we doing? And if news you can use. I have not seen my news you can use. Not seeing it yet. I think they caught everybody off guard. How great is that? By the way, and again, I don't want to get into the gloating part of this, but then I do, because this could easily, it's the Chicago Bears. This could easily blow up in our face. 3 years. Listen, like, let's not get too worked up. But let's enjoy this. We should talk S. We should be running our mouths right now. Hey, this is the only time the Bears win. You're like, yeah, I know. At least we win something in January. Where are you, Packers, Lions, and Vikings, man? Yeah, we're winning the offseason already. You guys didn't win the postseason. You notice that? Yeah, you didn't win S in the postseason. You all embarrassed yourselves. Lions especially. Dude, by the way, should we point out the Bears for 59 minutes and 30 seconds, for 50 seconds, didn't allow Jaden Daniels to lead his team on a single touchdown drive. The Lions gave up 45 to him. Just saying, just saying the facts. By the way, I also wanted to mention this too, and I'll probably post this later on this week because it won't matter now. But is Tyreek Stevenson considered a hero in Washington? Like, if it wasn't for the Tyreek Stevenson play, would Washington be in the NFC Championship game right now? If you're being honest with yourself, the answer is absolutely not. In any event, hey, Sammy, what do we got? Do we got questions? We got comments? Does anybody have a super chat? Does anybody want to, who are the potential coordinators beyond fitness, health, coaching? Hey, you know what? Thank you so much for being here. This is going to be wild speculation with Adam Rank. Thank you so much for being here. The one that I feel the most confident about is Lou Anarumo being the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. And as a matter of fact, on this show for the last couple of weeks, I've talked about this. Once Lou Anarumo was fired by the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm like, ooh, this is good news for us, because somebody who's a source in the a source in the organization made a joke about, like, hey, Lou Anarumo, the next coordinator, defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. I'm like, oh, I'll take that. I really like him. I think he's a good coordinator. I feel like the job that he did in Cincinnati over the last couple of years has been nothing short of a miracle. Oh no, Lou was hired by the Colts. Son of a gun. How did I miss that? All right, don't listen to me. Oh man, Lou was hired by the Colts. Son of a gun. I really love that connection because he went back with them. Okay, so Lou Anarumo's out. That's fine. When you look at this, I'm curious what we're going to see out of Antoine Randall. Antoine Randall is somebody that I would love to be a member of this organization. So when was Lou hired by the Colts? How did I miss that? Was it over the weekend? Hit me up with that. I know that Eberflus was interviewing with the Falcons, and I know that Lou had interviewed with the Falcons. Oh man, right before the show. Okay, cool. Okay, all right, cool. I would have been so worried if that would have happened on Friday. I would look like an idiot. Still look like an idiot. That's fair. Oh God, I thought he was going to Chicago. I was dead. I was so sure he was going to be a part of this staff. Oh, too bad. Good hire for the Colts, though, for anybody who's a fan of the Colts. I think that's a good move by them. He's a good coordinator, and I think he does a lot with it. It doesn't matter. He's not going to be with the Bears. Antoine Randall will be somebody that I'm going to be looking at with the Chicago Bears. I think that when you think about the fire that we need, like somebody because obviously Ben's going to be calling the plays or whatever. We need somebody like Antoine Randall, who's just we saw him a couple of weeks ago. Like when you think about talking about Tyreek Stevenson, when you talk about, hold on, I'm going to pull up the Lions coaching staff. When you talk about, some of the things that plague the Chicago Bears, where they are talking about accountability and people who need to step up and, put their foot down with this team. Don't allow things to slide. Remember the play on Thanksgiving where Tyreek Stevenson actually drew a penalty from Jamison Williams Tyreek Stevenson's benched. He's jaw-jocking with J-Mo, who's out there having a great game. And J-Mo throws the ball back or whatever. There is a part in that game where Antoine Randall is just unloading on J-Mo. And at that moment, I was like, let's make sure that Antoine Randall becomes a part of the coaching staff when Ben Johnson takes over. I love that. And currently, Antoine Randall is the wide receivers coach. I could see him making that move. We also have Tanner Engstrand. Mark Brunell's also a part of this coaching staff with the Detroit Lions. I don't know who is going to be attached to Ben Johnson the most. JT Barrett, I think, ends. I'm not gonna speculate who gets got. All I know is I want Antoine Randall to come aboard. Now, when Aaron Glenn gets hired, he's going to be taking over some of his guys. I could see. I'm just spitballing here. I really, you know what? This is something that I'm going to go investigate. Joe, Cameron Davis is somebody, but again, trying to look through, I haven't really searched. I actually gave up on the defensive side when I was assuming that Lou Anarumo. But Antoine Randall, the wide receivers coach for the Chicago Bears, I hope he is a part of this staff. We will hopefully be getting more clarity on this. If you guys, by the way, Sam and all you guys, if you see something pop through, let me know. But I feel like it's going to be, and this again, like not only when we talk about the Lions missing members of their staff, missing their coordinators, you also have to remember that they're taking coaches away from the team. Remember when Dave Wannstedt was hired by from the Dallas Cowboys? When we hired Dave Wannstedt, we brought over a couple of the Cowboys coordinators. Tony Wise was one of them, and Tony Wise was, regardless of, I always really liked him, and like he was like an offensive line guru. But again, that weekend, the Dallas Cowboys were a dynasty, and they started chipping away coordinators. So we hired Wannstedt in '93. Norv Turner goes to Washington in '94. And, you start chipping away at coordinators and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see. But I would love to see Antoine Randall. I don't have any insight on that. I'm going to be finding out. We're going to be working the phones here in a little bit. I'm sure I've already put in a thing for Jeezy and Tom Pelissero, and of course Stacey Dales. I will be talking to later on this afternoon. I will probably end up doing another Instagram Live, or I'll probably go on Instagram Live at some point this evening. I'm going to go on TikTok at some point this evening with more information as this continues to unfold. So not only will we be here as a part of the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank, this being our live show immediately after this, but at the same time, a lot of cool things, a lot of things unfold. How about another question, another comment? And even if somebody just wants to talk is Don Burr, by the way, please tell me Don Burr's in this chat. Please tell me he is in this chat. Also, do I have the ability? To pull some? Okay. Big Wash. Ryan Poles has done it again. This was a reclamation project going into year 4. He cleared the books, found her future quarterback, and now married said quarterback with a young-minded head coach. Yeah, you know what? This is Big Wash. This is one of those things that everybody who was upset that they didn't fire Matt Eberflus, and I know Greg Braggs was one of them. I was probably more pro Flus than anything else. I wonder if last season, if they knew that Ben Johnson wanted to wait one more year, if Ben Johnson wasn't ready to commit, and you're like, well, you might as well go with Matt Eberflus. And if Matt Eberflus hits, then then we'll stick with him. And if not, then we'll have Ben Johnson waiting for us. Because it kind of looks, the way it's set up, it looks sort of that way. And it's funny too, like when we think about all the things that have happened over the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of months, everybody said, a lot of people said, like, hey, there's no way they bring on Ben Johnson now if they don't get rid of Ryan Poles. There's no way he's going to come in here and work. Why is Kevin Warren here? Why is the HR director in on these meetings? What's George McCaskey doing? By the way, again, and I know a lot of you love to take aim at McCaskey and the family and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he brought in the person that you wanted him to bring in. This is the guy. This is who everybody wanted. And you were all so scared that this was going to end up being like, Georgia's going to blow it again. Now, there are things that still need to improve on this football team. And I do not want to wash over those with a great hire. There are still things to be addressed with this football team. However, at this moment right now, George McCaskey and the McCaskey family, working in conjunction with Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, got their guy. Remained steadfast. They went through 90 interviews. They brought in a lot of people. And you got to wonder too, like you wonder if Eddie George is going to come in here and get an opportunity with this coaching staff. You wonder if guys like Mike Kafka or some of these other guys, if you think of some of the people who came through the room, who took interviews, even the guys that you felt were the most obscure, like why are they talking to him? Number one, I appreciate now that they spent time with Pete Carroll. Got a read from him. Got some insight from Pete Carroll, even if it was just on a Zoom meeting. They got some intel with a lot of these other people, and they went out there and, got the pulse of the league. For everybody's like, you didn't even talk to Jaden Daniels. Well, you know what? You can't fault them now. They've talked to just about everybody. I don't know if they even got a chance to talk to Cliff Kingsbury or not. To me, it's not a difference. To me, if Cliff Kingsbury, I feel like he has found his bag. Like if he's sitting there and he sees they're doing pretty well. Like Jaden Daniels is doing pretty well. Dan Quinn's got a thing going. Like if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, I'm in no hurry to leave that job. I think that he's now the new Ben Johnson in that do not leave that job. Do not leave that, especially not this year. Don't go to the Saints. Don't go to the you could go to the Cowboys maybe. Don't go to the Saints. Don't go to the Jets. Maybe go to the Jags. I like that. By the way, that reminds me too, when we were talking about the coordinators and coaches, like Mark Brunell. Remember, wasn't there a report a couple of weeks ago where they're like, hey, Mark Brunell, he's his best friend from college, his Lambda Chi buddies at Washington said that he was going to go and be on Ben Johnson's staff in Jacksonville. I don't expect him because I see him being super just upset. I wonder if McCown comes over. Again, want to go through, read the tea leaves. And I'm going to sit here and start glomming some information. Yeah, this is cool. It's cool too. I get to be on the NFL Network today. In addition to Rogers Sportsnet. So at some point, maybe after my appearance, I taped with Rogers. Everybody knows this, yeah? So I forget what even the question was. So Ryan Poles did it again. So yeah, you know what? You think about this, like Ryan Poles kind of like, you know what? It's like the scene in Dumb and Dumber, just when we're ready to write you off. Like I was legitimately sitting there talking about Jalen Carter earlier today. And again, this will be something that Bears fans have to wear. It's a short on my podcast. You can find it on my TikTok. I'm not even going to put it on my Instagram. By the way, Sammy, be ready to do some Instagram posts this evening. I'm sure they'll do very well. But when you think about it, like when Jalen Carter was available, we all just sort of assumed like, you know what, this isn't exactly the right fitters, considering like, what's the culture like with Chicago? It's such a young head, whatever. And even guys like Dan Campbell, Pete Carroll, they passed on him. So, it takes a special organization. But it really was like, I felt like the Bears were telling on themselves back in the day. This was my point. This is nothing about Darnell Wright. He's a great player. Still happy to have him as the anchor on the right tackle spot. But they really did. The Bears kind of tattled on themselves, being like, yeah, we're not going to be able to handle a guy like this. We'll handle Tyreek Stevenson. Not as much. We'll let Tyreek Stevenson go out and help deliver somebody else to the NFC Championship game. Not our team, though, unfortunately. Well, this is great. What else do we got there, Sammy? What do we got going on? What are the people saying? I know everybody's on Twitter right now, going crazy. Jason Speed. They need O-line and D-line help. Not sure they can address both in free agency. Probably have to draft these positions. Yeah, Jason, you know what? That's a fair and legitimate question, or a legitimate point, I should say. And honestly, you can make the argument that a lot of what made the Detroit Lions so successful was how good their offensive line was and what they were able to do. And you know, when you have guys like Penny Sewell and Frank Ragnow and all these great guys on the offensive line, it does allow you some freedom to go out there and really be creative and really get guys open and do stuff like that. There's nothing that you're saying that is incorrect. Will they be able to address all of it in free agency? They won't. It's just not possible. However, if you go out there and make one key move in free agency and whomever it is, I think that the Bears could legitimately, like, they've got 3 of the first 41 picks, even without free agency. There's a lot you can do to get your team up to speed in the trenches. And again, it's probably going to be a couple year. It's going to be at least maybe 2 more draft cycles before we fully have it honed in. But you got to make the right decisions too. And I guess that's fair to speculate about Ryan Poles, because Nate Davis was certainly not the person. That was not the guy that we wanted him to be. It turned out horribly. And so there was, that didn't work out. Braxton Jones, I don't know. I'll let Ben Johnson determine Braxton Jones is going to be the guy or not. I still have a lot of faith in Braxton Jones. But the interior of the offensive line needs to be addressed. You need to draft a guard, hopefully sign a center. Those are some things. Those are some moves without even looking at the list right now. I've been so focused on Ben Johnson. These will be things that we start looking at in the coming weeks when we start getting into the free agency list and things like that. But also, 3 picks in the top 41. The Bears could even move down from 10, unless there is something earth-shattering that falls to them at 10. You could move down in the first round for anybody. I don't know. But then you got to make sure somebody wants to move up or doing something like that. We know there are endless possibilities. So, yeah, there's still questions. At the same time, there are still possibilities for this team. When you look at the way the Commanders were able to turn things around in one season, they honestly, they were judged to be one of the teams that didn't do well in free agency. They brought in Austin Eckler and Zach Ertz, and you're like, what are they doing? Are they signing a team for 2018 or for 2024? They had that kind of vibe to them. Retread coach, retread offensive coordinator, and it all came together and it all worked. So are the Bears automatically going to the Super Bowl? No. Are they a playoff team? I hope so. I think they're far more talented than people were giving them credit for at the end of the season. A lot of people at the end of the year were like, this is a 10-year rebuilding. There's no such thing as a 10-year rebuilding project in the NFL. Teams turn their fortunes around yearly. Look at the Commanders. Look at the Lions. 2 of the worst franchises over the last 20 years. The Lions were the number 1 seed coming into this season. The Commanders are going to the NFC Championship game. You cannot tell me that the Bears cannot get back to at least the playoffs next year. And that should be the expectation. And I know that people are going to come in and be like, why do you guys do this to yourselves? You know why? Because I'm a fan, which is short for fanatic. And I'm going to choose to believe. I'm not going to sit here. I know a lot of people love to trade in pessimism. And over the last 20 years, your pessimism has been rewarded. Congratulations to you. I'm happy for you. However, I still choose to believe that this team has got a good roster that can go out there and win games next season. You think about all the games that Caleb Williams did not get the credit for winning. The rally against the Commanders, the rally against the Packers in the first game. Minnesota, we can debate on whether that one. Would they have beaten Detroit? Again, we could debate these, but still, these were times when Caleb Williams, with no guidance and nobody sitting there helping him out, was able to rally this team. When the game is on the line is when he was playing his best. And so for me, I think having this with Ben Johnson is going to be huge. And Ben Johnson's going to be here. We're not going to have to worry about this. And this is one of the things, whatever I said, we should go with Mike Vrabel. It was like, well, the offensive coordinator could leave. This could be like, look at what the Lions are going through right now. The Lions are going to have to try to keep this moving without Ben Johnson. And it's not as easy as you think it's going to be. And there's a good chance that a lot of these guys are leaving as well. It's not just the coordinators, it's the coaches. Dan Campbell's going to have a lot of work to do to try to find these coaches to go out there. And so the Bears are not going to have that problem. Their guy is in place for the next number of years, for better or for worse. And I will say probably 5 years. Matt Nagy got that long. And look at what Matt Nagy did in his first season with the Chicago Bears. 2018, going to the playoffs. I don't know why. Don't settle. Don't settle for anything less than that with this team right now. Do not. I know that it's not a perfect roster. I know that there needs to be stuff done on the offensive and defensive line. You're not telling us something we don't know. But my faith has been renewed a little bit with the Chicago Bears because they nailed this and they were quick. This was not drawn out. You know, a lot of people thought like, this is going to drag out for a while. Oh, they're bringing in Eddie George today. Something. Oh, they're not just bringing in Eddie George just to hire Ben Johnson on Monday. Were we not? Were we not? And also, and again, if Lou Anarumo is signed took a job with the Colts, there must be somebody on the docket. I'm curious as to how long this had been known. This had to have been known. Like, you just don't sit there and be like, yeah, I've decided today. You knew. He knew all along. There was nothing. I think that he probably was flattered that Tom Brady thought so much of him. And by the way, too, when I'm sitting here and showing faith in this organization, when I'm saying that this is the team that can go out there and win, and you're like, well, I don't want to listen to you. You're a fan, blah, blah, blah. I got it. Understood. However, when you look at it this way, the number one coaching kit of this cycle agrees with me. That Ben Johnson and I are simpatico. We're on the same page in believing that the Chicago Bears can win football games. Ben Johnson and I both agree that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback of the 2024 draft class. We agree. He had a chance to coach either one of them. He had his choice of quarterbacks, and he chose to go with Caleb Williams. That's not me speculating. That's just the fact. He could have coached the Washington Commanders, but he said, nope, I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. It's happened. Listen, you know how it goes. Is there another question or comment? What do we got? Sammy's taking so much time. I'm led to believe we don't. Detroit has one of the best O-lines in football. Bears really need that too. Yeah, Arthur, 100%. I'm with you. Ashton Jetty on the clock for the Bears. Ben needs a Gibbs type player to make the system work. Did you really like Ashton after that game against Penn State? I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of his games. I'll be honest with you. I got to go back and check him out. But yeah, offensive line certainly has got to be addressed. Nobody is arguing with that. Ashton being the guy? Yeah, I'm curious. Like DeAndre Swift and Ben Johnson overlapped a little bit in right. It'll be curious to see what he thinks of him. Now I've always wished that we had kept David Montgomery, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. There's a lot of moves to be made. Yeah. I mean, what are the Bears? And again, free agency is going to be so telling to what this team does in the draft, because if the team is able to go out there, if we signed a 3 technique or a defensive tackle, or again, we don't know who the coordinator is going to be. So we don't really understand what the scheme is going to be with the defense. So we'll see what happens defensively with who the coordinator is. And we know who the offensive coordinator is. But yeah, I'm curious as to what happens. That could be a move that the Bears, there's actually like a lot of good running backs, and running backs should be given more opportunity moving forward, seeing what they can do and all that good stuff. But listen, so why don't we cap that right here? We're going to have so much more. We're going to be back Wednesday evening for Take It to the Rank. By that time, hopefully we will have the press conferences and all that stuff done, get more clarity on the offensive and defensive coordinator. So we'll go check that out. But this is a great day. This is a great day to be a fan of the Chicago Bears. And I know, and again, people love to come in and say things and be like, hey, Bears win the offseason again. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did, which is more than our counterparts in the NFC North did in January. Outside of the Lions winning a regular season game, a Week 18 game, none of you guys did anything. So don't give us grief that we went out there and got our guy. When you look at it right now, when you look at and again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I don't want to sit here and say that Ben Johnson is the next Bill Belichick or the next Jimmy Johnson or anything like that. That's fair. But I think that hopefully, given what we've seen out of Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator of the Lions, who is 15-3 against this division, we could end up having the best coach in the conference. We're not there yet. That's fine. However, I will say, going into 2025, if you were to pick which quarterback from this division that you would want, Caleb Williams would undoubtedly be the number one pick of the NFC North quarterbacks. And I'll throw Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones in there too. If you're ranking the quarterbacks going into 2025 in the NFC North, it is Caleb Williams. And you can't deny that. And if you're not, you're just not being realistic. You're not being truthful. You're not doing any of that. So I understand it's been bare. And listen, again, we've been here before. We've been confident before, but now I feel like our confidence is going to be rewarded. There is some foundation to be built upon for our faith. How do we not have the Ben Johnson? Okay. Oh, here we go. Hey, stick with me. Hold on, Sammy. Thank you. Okay. This is interesting. Okay. The Bears head coach, okay. Dennis Allen is expected to be the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. This is according to a report from Tom Pelissero. Ben Johnson lining up former Saints head coach Dennis Allen to be the defensive coordinator. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, this is breaking news. This just came out not a couple of minutes ago. Okay, we got that. Glad I saw this. So here we go. Research. Oh, here's all our research. Okay. You know what, Sammy? I know I was logging off. Stay with me, everybody. Finally got these notes coming in. Finally, we got it. Okay. Ben Johnson, 38 years old, 13 seasons of NFL coaching experience. The Bears offense last season, points per game, we were 28th. Total yards per game, 32nd. Yards per play, 32nd. Passing yard, it was not great. Caleb Williams, again, I don't think a lot of this was his fault. The Lions led the NFL in scoring offense, 33 points per game in 2024. We all know that. They were first in points per game, total yards per game. They were second, passing yards per game, second, first downs per game, first, giveaways tied for second. You know, when you think about this too, and you think about what Jared Goff was past, like Sean McVay was like, I'm done with this guy. I can't do any more with this. I really think, I think Jared Goff's going to take, but anyways, I do like the Dennis Allen pick. I think that Dennis Allen, again, this is one of the cool things. I really like this move because when I think that you're a first-time head coach, to me, it's important that you have an established veteran to go along with you. When Matt Nagy came in here, Vic Fangio, I thought was a pretty good match with him. Vic Fangio was there, like, okay, this is cool. This is going to work out. There's a veteran guy there to kind of lead him along. Ben Johnson's 38 years old. Dennis Allen has been a head coach for 2 NFL teams. And you can sit here and be like, well, the Raiders weren't very good. This team wasn't very good. That's fair. However, Dennis Allen has proven to be a great defensive coordinator over his years. Dennis Allen also is somebody who understands what it takes to be an NFL head coach. You know, when we saw Thomas Brown going out there and going through the paces and everything, being thrown into the mix, he didn't really have a mentor on that staff to really look after him, being like, hey, this is what you need to do. Like Dennis Allen can help out in those kind of situations. Dennis Allen can be the kind of guy. Dennis Allen is at least somebody who has called the timeout on an NFL sideline before. And that's not a shot at Matt Eberflus, even though it seems like it. But Dennis Allen is somebody who has the experience of being a head coach, which will be a great mentorship for Ben Johnson. I'm glad I just saw this. All right, great move. Really like that move. That's a savvy move. Yeah, you don't want all the young kids. That makes sense. You don't want to just bring over all your friends. So we're good. Finalizing a deal. Just making sure. Boom. All right. Well, there we go. Cool. So I'm glad we got that in. So Dennis Allen likely to be the defensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. So that's a good move. Really like that, but really like the fact that everybody hung out with us today. I know that everybody's going crazy. Bears Twitter is going nuts. The fact that you took a few moments out of your time to stick with us, to hang out with us on the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank. I love that. I love that for us. Number one, NFL Network, 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be on with Stacey Dales to talk about this move. I'll be on Rogers Sportsnet. And then later on this evening, come find me on either TikTok or Instagram. I will be on both those platforms at some point this evening, talking about this stuff, having a good time, reveling in our success. I'm going to go down right now and kind of get my thoughts more aligned with everything. But thank you so much for being here. It's a great day to be a fan of the Chicago Bears. Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by Circa Sports Illinois.